How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Ayin Ches, Daf 78 of Masechta Sanhedrin. Friends, yo friends. Alright, we're starting Daf Ayin Ches, Amud Aleph, 2 lines into the page. We're talking about stuff, and then we're going to get to a new Mishnah that's going to talk about some more stuff. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, second line of Daf Ayin Ches Amud Aleph. Hiku asar b'nei adam ba'asar maklis va meis. If 10 people were hitting a victim, 10 aggressors were hitting a victim, and each aggressor had a stick, and they were hitting the victim, va meis, and the victim perished. Ben bevas achas ben boze achas pturin. Whether all 10 aggressors were hitting the victim at once, or whether it was one after the next. One gave a zetz, and then the other one gave a zetz, and then the next one gave a zetz, etc., 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 until 10 of them gave the victim a zetz. Now, as we're going to see in a few minutes, it must be that each one of these zetzes was enough to kill the victim. So kilu, they gave mamash a zetz from Zetz land, and the guy mamash it was enough to kill the guy. He would have, I guess, suffered for a half an hour or so and then plopped. But no, the next guy gave him such a zetz, and then the third, the fourth, until he finally died, because if it wasn't enough to kill him, so then he'd be potter. So we're talking about, meaning Memele would be potter. So we're going to see soon. So the fact that we're even talking about it, that maybe he's chayiv, means he hit him hard enough that he would be able to kill the victim. So whether all 10 aggressors gave him a clap at the same time, or whether it was one after the next, potter. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Omer, whereas Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira argues, Boze achaze ha'achrin chayiv, that, look, if they all gave him a zetz tzezamin at the same time, so then they would be potter. We're going to explain why in a minute. But if it was one after the next, as Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, the last one would be chayiv mipnei shekerev as misaso, because the last guy, even though yes, the person before him gave him a zetz that was stark enough that it would have killed him. However, the subsequent guy, the last guy, gave noch a zetz, which Poshet knocked the wind out of him, and that was it. He went to Elwood. So therefore, he is chayv. Rabbi Yechanan v'shnei mikra echad darshu, and Rabbi Yechanan says that both Tanna Kama and Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira darsh in the same pasuk. Ve'ish kiyake kol nefesh udam, that if an aggressor smites the entire soul of a victim, of a person, Rabbanan Tzaveh kol nefesh adika kol nefesh, you have to have one person killing the victim entirely. But if you have 10 people contributing to it, whether tzazamen, whether together, or whether one after the next, no, because even the last guy who mamish knocked the wind out of him, still he didn't knock the entire wind out of him, because the people before him had already knocked some of the wind out of him, or at least a certain amount of it. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira sover, or Rabbi ben Beseira says, "Kol nefesh, kol dehu nefesh." As long as there is some spirit, some soul left in him, when he gives him that clap that knocks the wind out of him, he's going to be chayiv. So it says, right, but when you have all of them doing it tzezamin, then they're potter. It says ve'ish kiyaka konevish. When one person hits another person, but 10 people would be potter. But if one person hits the guy, and then another one gives him a clap and kills him, so the one who gave him the final blow is going to be chayiv, because so long as he was still alive at the time of the chap, at the time of the clap, at the time of the zetz, so then he's going to be chayiv for killing. Omer Rav says, Rav Akil made him, everybody agrees, behoriges atreife show potter. So if a guy's like throat is slit and he's like mamish about to die, and then somebody else shoots him in the head, Wow, it's a very violent daf. What's the word I'm thinking of? I don't know. But anyways, I'll upon him. Okay, Shu Potter. Begeses b'dei Shemayim Shu Chayiv. And if the guy was, dying, I don't know, and maybe fell off a bridge or something, but he's not. But it's not like there's like a hole in his throat or anything like that. But not somebody didn't do it to him. He just maybe tripped and he fell and he's gonna die. But there isn't anything. It's not like he has like a bullet through his brain or anything. All right. So then, if somebody then puts a bullet through his brain, then it'll be chayiv. The bullet brainer, doer, shooter would be chayiv. Lo nechaku ela begoses b'dei adam. The machloikes is begoses b'dei adam. That meaning meaning, okay, we said that if the guy has like a hole in his brain, so then if you then give him another hole in his brain, you'd be potter. Okay, now if a guy like tripped and he's just kind of lying there or something, and he's dying, but there's no hole in his brain, and then you kill him, so you can be chayiv. But what if and that was bidei shamayim, you'd be chayiv. But what if another person pushed somebody else and he fell, and he doesn't have a hole in his brain or anything, but it wasn't bidei shamayim because he was pushed, and then you shoot him in the head? Wow, it's very violent. What's the word I'm thinking of? It's not violence. It's like if there was like a video game that had a lot of. It's not like aggression. It's not violence. Well, what's like? It's not like gory. I don't know. It's a very. How would you describe such a like video game or something? I don't know. Anyways, okay. Mar medami le treifo medami le gose. So, where am I? So the Chachamim would say that he's like a treifa and potter, whereas Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira is like he's like a goses b'dei shamayim and he's chayiv. Man the medamile le treifa. The Chachamim would say that he's like a treifa. My time lo medamile le goses b'dei shamayim. Why not treat him like a goses b'dei shamayim? Because goses b'dei shamayim lo yisavid b'maisa, yisavid b'maisa. Because by goses b'dei shamayim nobody did anything. It's from heaven. Whereas over here, somebody pushed him, whatever. When it says it's like a ghost b'dei shamayim, why not say like a treifa? Because treifa mechatchei simonim, holy mechatchei simonim. Well, a treifa, he's got like a, his like throat is slit, or he's got a hole in his brain or something. Here he doesn't. He was just pushed to the ground and he's dying, but he doesn't have a hole in his brain. Tani Tana Kame de Rav Sheshes. The Tana taught before Rav Sheshes. V'ishki yake kol nefesh adam, a person who smites the entire soul of a fellow. Lohavi amake es chaveru ve'ein bo kedei la'amis, to include a scenario where Shimon hits Ruvain, but not strong enough to kill him. Uva'achev amisun, and somebody else comes and kills him. Shu chayiv, that the second guy is chayiv. Ein bo kedei la'amis pshita. Wait, if when Shimon hit Ruvain, it wasn't strong enough to kill Ruvain, obviously Shimon will be potter if Levi then comes along and kills Ruvain. No, so Ella yesh bo kedei lahamis, rather if there's enough to have killed him, but he wasn't yet dead, but then somebody else comes and killed him, and that's like Rabbi Yehuda ben, it's a stam brisa like Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. Because Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira had said that, as long as they're, and that's why I was saying earlier that it must be talking about a scenario where each person hit the fellow stark enough to kill him, but only the last person really killed him, like they gave him the zetz that knocked the wind out of him. So Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says he's chayiv, and here we're saying the same thing, like Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, that if the first guy hit him stark enough to kill him, but then another guy came and mamish finished the job, so the second guy is going to be chayiv. All right. Now we're going to have, 4 like brises that are, you're going to see, they're like similar, they're like kind of like, similar in a bunch of ways. Amar Rava says, Rava, harigas hatreifa potter. Okay, so somebody who kills a treifa, so for example, a guy has a hole in his brain and you blow a second hole in his brain, so you're potter, he's about to die anyways. V'treifa shaharag, a treifa who kills somebody else. Okay, so this is interesting. B'fnei bezdin chayiv. So if he does this in front of bezdin, so then bezdin will just kind of be like, yo, we saw that, and then he's going to be chayiv. Shalom b'fnei bezdin, but if it's not in front of bezdin, well then he's going to be potter. B'fnei bezdin chayiv. We said that if it's in front of bezdin, it's chayiv because the pasuk says that you have to destroy evil from your midst, and bezdin saw that this treifa killed somebody, so we can't allow him to get away with that. Now, shaloi b'fnei bezdin potter, but if it is not in front of bezdin, so he's potter. How come he's potter if it's not in front of bezdin? Why don't you just bring the treifa to bezdin? Because okay, if a treifa kills somebody else and it's not in front of bezdin, so you have to take him to bezdin. What are you going to have to do? Take him to bezdin and testify. We saw that this treifa killed somebody else. The thing is, the witnesses are trying to kill the treifa, but they themselves can't be killed, right? How come? Well, because they're just basically trying to kill somebody who's already considered dead. And their treifa is already considered dead. So we're not going to kill them. They're just killing somebody who's already considered dead. So if witnesses are going to come to court to try to get this guy executed, but it's because if they turn out to be liars, we're not going to execute them because they were just ultimately going to execute somebody who's already considered dead. So because we can't do to them what they try to do to him, so it's Eidos Shat Yochel Azima, V'chol Eidos Shat Yochel Azima Lishma Eidos, and Eidos Shat Yochel Azima is invalid. Therefore, it's impossible to have witnesses testify about this treifa. Therefore, he's potter. But if it's in front of bezdin and bezdin sees it, so then they're going to judge him and be chayiv misa. From a Rava says Rava aroiveya es atreife chayiv. Okay, if somebody is roveya, has bia, right? If Shimon has bia with Ruvain and Ruvain is a treifa, Shimon is chayiv. Treifa sherova, but if a treifa is roveya, like if Ruvain is a treifa and he's roveya Shimon, bifnei bezdin chayiv. So if it's in front of bezdin, so chayiv, they saw it. Shaloi bifnei bezdin, but if it's not in front of bezdin, potter, he's potter. Bifnei bezdin chayiv, dichsev v'yatara mikir be'acho. So if it's in front of bezdin, so Ruvain, the treifa, would be chayiv for having beer with Shimon because if it's in front of bezdin, they saw it. So then we have to destroy the evil from amongst your midst. Shaloi bifnei bezdin potter. But if this happened not in front of bezdin, so Ruvain is potter because how is he going to be chayiv? You're going to have to bring him to bezdin. But again, because you're testifying about a treifa, memela becomes Eidos Shat Yochel Azima. Davla Eidos Shat Yochel Azima hasu lama li'anuach. Fact, the Gemara, this case seems identical to the previous case about a treifa who murders is potter because it's Eidos Shat Yochel Azima. So here we're saying a treifa who roveyas is potter because it's the same, it's a zelbazach, it's the same thing. So a roveya es hatreifa tzricha. Yeah, but the chiddush was for a roveya es hatreifa to say that he's chayiv. That if Shimon is roveya Ruvain who's a treifa, Shimon is going to be chayiv for that. I may have thought I may have thought that we should treat it as since Ruvain is a treifa, I would think it's as if Shimon is having a bia with the corpse, in which case it's weird, but he's potter. Kamash Malon, the Mishum Anoya, who veha isle Hanoya. So, but Kamash Malon, that the reason why he's chayiv is because of Anoya, and even though Ruvain is a treifa, he's still alive, he's still a warm body, and Shimon gets Anoya from that, and therefore Shimon is going to be chayiv for having bia with Ruvain. V'amar Ravin says Rava Eidim she'idu b'treifa v'huzmu ein nerogin. Okay, witnesses who testify about a treifa, I don't know that he killed somebody. So the Eidim, if they become Eidim zomim ein nerogin, they are not chayiv misa because they were just trying to kill a treifa, and the treifa is already considered like he's dead. So we're not going to kill them. Okay, Eidei Treifa Shehuzmu, Eidim who are Treifas, that they became Eidim Zomim, Nerogan, they will be killed. Rav Ashi Omar, Rav Ashi says, Afilu Eidei Treifa Shehuzmu Nerogan, even witnesses who are Treifas themselves would not be killed. The Fisha Eidim Bezomim Zomim. Oh gosh, because if the people made them into Eidim Zomim, but themselves become Eidim Zomim, so the now Eidim Zomim you can't kill because they were just trying to kill Treifas, so you wouldn't kill this. So because they're not Bezomim, so therefore the Eidei Treifas are not killed either. Okay. Rava says, Rava, short Treifa Shaharag Chayiv. Okay, if you have an ox that is a Treifa and it gores and kills, Chayiv. So we kill the Treifa ox. B'shor shel Adam Treifa. Now, if you have a person who's a Treifa and he has an ox and that ox gores and kills, but the ox is healthy, Shaharag Potter. So the ox is Potter. My time, how come? On my kra, right? So if we said that if the shore is a treifa and it gores, then he's chayiv. But if the shore is healthy, but the owner is a treifa, so then the shore is potter. My time, how come? On my kra, the pasuk says, "Ashor yisakov v'gam ba'alav yumos," that we stone the ox, but also the owner. That we compare the owner to the ox. Kol echad de karina bay v'gam ba'alav yumos, karina bay hasher yisakol. That only in a scenario where we would say that also the owner, if he, killed somebody, we'd kill the owner. So then we'd kill only a scenario where we'd stone the owner, would we stone the ox. But here, the owner's already a treifa. Lo karina bay v'gam ba'alav yumos, lo karina bay hasher yi sakol. But if we wouldn't say gam ba'alav yumos, so then we also don't say hasher yi sakol. And therefore, in this case, if the owner is a treifa, so he wouldn't execute the owner. So therefore, the ox is also potter. Vashi Amar afilu shor treifa na'am shor potter, says Vashi, even an ox that's a treifa that kills is also pottered. My time outcome came the ilu bailim avu ptire. What? Kevan the ilu bailim avu ptire shor nami ptire potter. Okay. Oh, came the ilu bailim avu ptire. Maybe that's the way to read it. Shor nami potter. Kilu, since if the owner, wait, what? I don't know. Basically, if you have a shore that's a treifa that kills, then the shore is going to be potter according to Vasha, because since if the owner who is healthy, but if the owner would be in the same state as the shore, i.e. if the owner would be like the shore, i.e. a treifa, the owner would be potter. So therefore, the shore also, who is right now a treifa, is also potter. Shisa b'Yisakelev v'chulei Omer of Acha bar Yaakov. So it says of Acha bar Yaakov. Now the Mishnah had said that if you take a snake and you hold the head of the snake and you you stab the teeth into somebody, and the person dies from the venom of the snake. So the machlokes of Rabbi Yehuda and the Chacham. Rabbi Yehuda says he's chayiv for that. It's like you basically stab the guy, whereas the Chacham say you are potter. So now we say, according to Rabbi Yehuda says chayiv eres nochosh ben shinov hu omid, that the venom of a snake is like readily available, is like mamish right at the tip of the fangs, and if you stab those fangs into somebody, you're basically injecting them with venom right away directly, and therefore you're chayiv. Therefore, the one who like stabs somebody else with with the snake fangs is going to be we slice off his head because he's a murderer. The nachash potter, whereas the nachash is potter. The nachash didn't do anything. Somebody just used the nachash. But according to Chacham, eres nachash me'atzmo hu meki. Whereas the Chacham say no, the venom is not like just hanging out on the fangs. They're inside the fangs, and you stab somebody, you're basically just stabbing them with teeth. But then the snake secretes the venom, so it's the snake that's ultimately killing the person and the victim, and the aggressor. It's basically a groma. You just stuck fangs into the person, and then the snake killed the victim. So the fichach nachash b'skila v'amakish potter, and therefore the snake gets skila because the snakes killed the victim with its venom, but the aggressor is going to be potter because he just basically stabbed the victim with fangs, but not with, he didn't do the venom part. And now we get to a new Mishne Amakes Chavero, if Shimon hits Ruvain, Bein be'evan, Bein be'egrof, whether Shimon uses a stone, whether the Shimon uses a fist, Vamdu Lemisa, and the Bezdin, I guess, evaluated the victim, and they say, okay, he is, he's gonna die. He's gonna die. But he miraculously he recovered, and now they changed the prediction. The what's the word I'm thinking of? Their I don't know, forecast, I guess. And they said, okay, Taka, he's gonna live. But then things go south and he dies. Chayv. So according to Tanakama, he's chayv. Let's go weiter. Rabbi Nechemia says he's potter because there's raglayim b'davar. What does that mean? Well, according to Tanakama, what happened? There was a victim. The forecast, I don't like that. They basically said, okay, he's going to die. So he's a dead man. Miraculously, his situation improved so to the extent that they said, okay, it's a stable condition, he's going to survive. But then things went south. So according to the Chachamim, we say, you know what? It's from the original, he died from the initial, from the initial beating or whatever that he received. So therefore, initially they said he was going to die. He improved, but then he ended up dying. So Shimon, the aggressor, is chayiv for that. Ultimately, we assume that it's from his aggression that the victim died. Whereas Rabbi Nechemia says no. Once his condition stabilized and he was going to live, we assume that, right? So then Shimon's off the hook. So he ended up dying. He died from something else. Raglaim ladavar. There's already reason for us to be able to say that he already made it past, right? That his life was no longer in a life-threatening situation. And therefore, Shimon is no longer going to be chayiv. He's now potter. In the event that the victim ends up dying, that's a separate, that he died from something else. Shimon is not chayiv for that. Taner Rabbanan, the Rabbi Stott, says the Gemara, Ezoi Darish Reb Nechemia Dash in the following, Im Yokum v'salich b'chutz, that if the victim, right, because what does the pasuk say? Okay, well, what does the previous pasuk say? The previous pasuk says, I have it right here, V'chinotzu anoshim, no. Not that. If two people are fighting, and somebody hits his friend with the stone or with his fist, and he doesn't die, and he is in his hospital bed, and then it says, and if he then gets out of his hospital bed and he's walking around outside, his condition stabilizes, well then Shimon v'nika amake, the aggressor, is now innocent. So we say, of course the aggressor is now innocent. Of course, right? If Reuven is now walking around town, Shimon did something bad, but we're not going to kill him. Reuven survived. Obviously, if Reuven's walking around town, we're not going to be killing Shimon. Did it ever enter your mind that Shimon beats up Reuven? Reuven survives. His condition improves such that he's walking around town. I mean, obviously we're not going to kill Shimon. Yeah, he's going to be chayiv, nezek, tzar, ripoy, sheves, boshes, but he's not going to kill Shimon. Reuven survived. So why is the pasuk talking about why do you have to tell me that? Obviously, v'nika amaka. Obviously, Shimon's not chayiv misa anymore. Rather, says Rabbi Nechemia, what the pasuk is teaching is that if you have a scenario where the victim, initially we thought he was going to die, we evaluated that he was going to die, but then his situation stabilized. But then afterwards, the situation goes downhill and he dies. Shehu potter, Shimon is still potter. Now, for Rabbanon, the rabbis who say that no, in that case Shimon is chayiv. Yeah, sure, Reuven's situation improved, but then it got worse again. That's Shimon's fault. He's going to be chayiv misa. So then, what do they do with this pasuk of Vim Yakum v'Salich b'chutz Amashanta v'nika amake? Milamed shechovshin also, it teaches that we put him in jail. That's what the Chachamim learned from there. Is that when Shimon beats up Reuven, and Reuven, right, and the evaluation is that Reuven is going to die. Mamish, he was beat so badly, he's not going to survive. So at that point, we throw Shimon in jail while we wait to see what happens to Reuven. If the evaluation is that Reuven is going to die, we throw Shimon in jail. And according to Chacham, what the pasuk is teaching is that once if Reuven's situation stabilizes, then we release Shimon from jail. We release Shimon from jail. Now, if Reuven's situation goes downhill again, well, then Shimon's going to be in trouble. But once Reuven's situation stabilizes, Shimon is freed from jail. How does Reb Nechemya then know about jail? Because he learns from there that Shimon is not going to be Chayv Misa even if Reuven's situation deteriorates. So Reb Nechemya, how does he know about jail? Reb Nechemya learns it out from the Mekoshesh Eitzim, the guy who collected wood on Shabbos in the desert. That it says over there that they put him in the Mishmar. That they put him in jail because they didn't know which punishment it was going to be. They knew he was Chayv Misa, they didn't know which Misa, so they threw him in jail in the interim. So Ibn Nechemya learns from there about the concept of jail. Why don't the rabbis learn out jail from Mekoshesh Eitzim? Mekoshesh bar Ktola hu umoshe lo ava yodo Ktole b'mai. Yeah, but the difference is that by the Mekoshesh Eitzim, everybody knew that he was Chayav Misa. Everybody knew that Michal Shabbos is Chayav Misa. What they didn't know is which Misa, but they knew he was a dead man. There was no way around that, so they threw him in jail in the meantime while they figure out what to do with him. But they knew that he wasn't going anywhere. He's Chayav Misa. Lafuke hai, to the exclusion of this case, here we don't actually know if Shimon's Chayav Misa or not, because depends if Reuven survives or not. What ends up happening with Reuven? So therefore the Chachamim say, I wouldn't be able to learn out jail, right, generally speaking, I wouldn't be able to know about jail in Judaism from the Mekoshesh Eitzim. Rather, I wouldn't be able to know about this scenario with Reuven and Shimon, where Reuven's in the hospital. I wouldn't know about jail there. Reb Nechemya, Yolif mi Megadif. So Reb Nechemya says, okay, but then let's learn out jail from the Megadif, from the blasphemer. Because by the blasphemer, they didn't know if he was Chayav Misa or not. They didn't know, and yet they put him in jail. So we see that even when we're not sure about a Chiyuv Misa, we would still put him in jail. Whereas the Rabbanan say, no, we can't learn out jail from there because the Megadef was a Rosh Hashanah. They did that on their own accord. There was no specific halacha that says put him in jail. They did him in jail because they just simply didn't know. There was no reason why they should be put in jail. It's not like they knew that he was Chayav Misa or anything like that. So there was no reason why they would say he goes to jail. But they put him in jail anyways until they figure out, what to do with him. But here we have a pasuk of V'nika Amake, according to the Chacham, to say, we're saying that we have a pasuk that's Davka telling us that in this case, where we're not sure if the victim is going to survive or not, we put the aggressor in jail. According to the Chacham. According to Ibn Nechemya, he has no problem learning out from Megadef. Kidetanya, as we learn in a Brisa, that the Mekoshesh, they knew that he was Chayav Misa, they just didn't know which Misa. That Moshe Rabbeinu knew that the Mekoshesh Eitzim on Shabbos was Chayav Misa. Shenemar Mechalolei Mos Yumos. The pasuk already says that anybody who's Mechal Shabbos Mos Yumos. What he didn't know was which Misa. They just weren't sure which one. But the blasphemer lo nemar bo ela lefarish lohem al pi Hashem. By the Megadif, by the blasphemer, it says that they had to explain by the mouth of God shlohoya Moshe Yodea imu ben Misa kol ikar imlab, that Moshe Rabbeinu Pasha didn't know if the Megadif was even Chayav Misa or not. Now, Bishlam of Reb Nechemya, I understand what Reb Nechemya, I need chsive trei umdinei. That's why I need two evaluations. So here, it's good to look at the pasuk so there's two psukim, right? The first pasuk is v'chirivun anoshim v'hika isha. I'm reading the psukim. V'hika isha re'eyu. So Shimon hits Reuven, be'evan or be'eger with a stone or with a fist. V'lo yamus, and he doesn't die. V'nafal mishkov. Let's actually read more for a second. That's the point. Right, and then at the end, we're talking about the 5 damages that he has to pay. Nezek, tsar, sheves, ripoy, and boshes. Right? That's enough from this pasuk. So now, we have 2 things over there. It says, V'lo yamus. Right? We have one thing is that he doesn't die. And then we also have him, Yokum v'salich b'chutza m'shanto v'nika amake. Right? So it says, right, so we have basically 2 evaluations. We have that, well, they thought he was going to die, but he didn't die. And then we also have, right, so according to Reb Nechemia, you have the situation where you thought he was going to die, v'lo yamus, but he didn't die. But then also you have v'im yakum v'salach b'chutza m'shanto v'nika amake. That's talking about when they thought he was going to die, he didn't die, but then he did die. In both cases, rak shivto yite v'rape yirape, it is the 5 payments. You're not chayiv misa. Where are we? That's why there are 2 evaluations in the psukim. When it says v'lo yamus chadam du l'misa v'chaya, that's talking about, well, they thought he was going to die, but he lived. V'chad amdu l'misa v'hekel mashaya, and the second one is talking about v'im yokum v'salach b'chutza m'shanto v'nika amake. That's talking about when they thought he was going to die, but then he ended up surviving, but then he died. That case also, you pay the 5 things, you're not chayiv misa. But according to Rabbanan, who said that when they thought he was going to die, then he stabilized, but then he died, you are chayiv misa. Well then, what's the deal with the second scenario by Rak Shivto Yitin V'Rape Yirape? What's the deal with the 2 evaluations? Okay, well, V'lo Yamus is talking about when they thought he was going to die, but he didn't. And the other one is talking about where they thought he was going to survive, and then they ended up dying. In both cases, he's not chayav misa. He pays the 5 payments, right? If they thought he was going to die, but he ended up surviving, or if they thought he was going to survive, but he ended up dying. In both of those cases, Shimon is not chayiv misa. The aggressor is not chayiv misa. But Rabbi Nechemi says we don't need a pasuk for the second scenario. We don't need a pasuk for the scenario where they initially forecasted that he was going to live. Because as we learned already earlier in the Masechta, on Daf Ayin Zayin. What? No, not Daf Ayin Zayin. No. Ayin Zayin Amid Beis. Ayin Zayin Amid Beis? That's where it came up on Ayin Zayin Amid Beis? Huh. No, I thought Yotzim Bezin came on Ayin Zayin Amid Beis. I don't know, I don't remember. But anyways, there it is. Okay, fine. No, but I think the point is, we learned earlier in the Masechta that once they already said that he's innocent, so they're not going to say that he's guilty. Does Rashi say that? Shall we? Yeah, exactly. And Daf Lamed Gimel. Yeah, that's what Rashi says. Exactly. That right. That minayin liyotzi mi bezdin zakai v'omer echad yesh l'amid chova shemachzirun also shnema v'tzadik al tayrog. That once already you say that he's innocent, once already you assume that Reuben's gonna live, well then already Shimon is not chayiv misa, even if Reuben then ends up taking a downturn. So according to Ibn Chemah, you don't need this pasuk to teach me about a scenario when they initially thought, projected that he was going to live, and then he ended up dying. I don't need a pasuk for that, according to Reb Nechemia. Shimon hits Reuven, they said Reuven's going to die. But he lived. Pochin also, so Shimon is not chayav misa. Amdu lemisa, if they said Reuven's going to die, but then is Reuven's condition stabilized? Omdin also, omid sheni. So now they say, okay, well, it looks like Reuven's not going to die. So then they calculate nezek, tsar, ripoy, sheves, boshes, limamun for money instead of misa. Shimon's not chayav misa anymore. Now, if afterwards Reuven's situation deteriorated and he died, halich acher omerem tzoyt Ibn Nechemia says you go based on that sort of middle state on the money, right? He pays money. He's not chayiv misa. Whereas the Chacham say, no, we're not going to go based on that second evaluation for money after we initially evaluated that he was going to die. If his situation stabilizes, but then he deteriorates, the Chacham say is going to be Shimon is Chayv Misa. Tani Idach, we have another brayso, Amdu Lemisa, if they said Reuven was going to die, Omdin also L'chaim, we could reevaluate to project that Reuven is going to live. L'chaim ben Omdin also Lemisa, if they say that Reuven is going to live, we don't reevaluate to say that he's going to die, in which case Shimon would be Chayv Misa. No, we don't do that. Amdu Lemisa, if they said initially that Reuven was going to die, then is Reuven's situation stabilized. Omdin also Omed Shenim, so then we reevaluate Reuven's situation now that he's stabilized. L'mamin, and we evaluate Nezek Tzar Ripo Sheves Boshes V'mlachar Kain Ichbid Vames. Then if afterwards though Reuven's condition deteriorated, still Mishalim Nezek V'Tzar Liyorshim, still Shimon is going to pay a Nezek Tzar as well as Sheves Ripo and Boshes to the heirs. Shimon pays that, he's not Chayv Misa. Meimosa Mishalim. At what point do we evaluate Reuven? Based on the time that he was hit, or based on the time that they evaluate him when his condition stabilized? Mishosha Iko, from the time that he was hit, right? We compare him before the hit and to after the hit. V'stomach Reb Nechemia, and this is like Reb Nechemia, that once his situation stabilizes, Shimon is off the hook, even if Reuven's condition then deteriorates. That was daf Ayin Ches of Masechto Sanhedrin. The first part of the daf, we learned about all sorts of interesting things, Machlekes Tanakama and Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, about you have to have one person knock the wind out of the guy. What if somebody knocks the wind out of the guy, but then the other guy finalizes the knocking of the wind out of the guy? Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says he'd be chayiv in that case. Chum say he'd be potter. Then we had all sorts of situations that were interesting about, like and then we got this machlokes between Tanakama and Reb Nechemia about what happens in a situation where Shimon beat up Reuven. They thought Reuven was gonna die. Then he ended up stabilizing, but then he deteriorated. The Chacham say that Shimon is Chayv Misa. Reb Nechemia says he's potter. He has to pay money. Peace out.